Thank you very much for your kind remarks, Paul. My mother would have believed them. Dame Sackler, Noel, thank you so much for this honor. I'm a little confused when I saw the cosmopolitanness of the film you showed in the beginning and the internationalists of the other recipients, why you convoked me to come here from Buffalo, New York. I'm humbled to receive an award whose previous recipients include some of our most public-spirited private sector leaders. Indeed, I salute the association which, through an award that recognizes corporate social responsibility, recognizes the long and continuing tradition of American business leaders who keenly feel such an obligation and act accordingly, or at least do our best. The term corporate responsibility is a contemporary one, and one that I freely embrace. At the same time, I view it as a new term for a time-honored concept, which I call corporate citizenship. The corporate citizen is, to be sure, a socially responsible firm, in that fundamentally it acts on the core belief that it has proper roles that transcend the bottom line. The corporate citizen, however, hews to a particular version of social responsibility, that of a firm that plays a foundational role in civic life, especially in its home community. Its executives serve on community boards, and they, along with their colleagues, volunteer at all manners of local causes and support myriad charities. Those tied to a company that sees itself as a force for the greater good makes communities better. They mentor young people as youth sports coaches or Scouts leaders, serve on parent-teacher associations, and bring their talent to local arts, hospitals, and charities. But put more broadly, the corporate citizen understands its community and identifies ways it can contribute based on its deep local knowledge of its needs. Implicitly, the good corporate citizen understands that not all community needs are addressed by the market, and that for private firms to thrive, civic life must be healthy. Why would I bother to call attention to a tradition as a time-honored in America as corporate citizenship? Because, despite the fact that its exemplars can be found throughout American history, from Andrew Carnegie to Bill Gates, it is very much an endangered tradition. There was a time when virtually all small and mid-sized cities could boast a major corporate headquarters. I think of Kodak in Rochester and its once prosperous 1,300-acre campus and 200 buildings teeming with its local workforce. I remember Carrier, the air conditioning manufacturer that once called Syracuse its primary home, and the York peppermint patty, first made, of course, in York, Pennsylvania. But the model of local business leadership is, I worry, one very much under duress. In today's hyper-competitive business climate, one in which even small companies are besotted with burdensome regulation, local companies that were once community pillars are increasingly vulnerable to takeovers from large outsiders with the scale to function in this environment, but with no roots in no particular community. Following such takeovers, headquarters often depart and local employment withers. Local tax revenues decline. It's a ruthlessly efficient route to community devastation, and one that becomes all too common. Kodak's campus is little more than a memory. 80 of its 200 buildings have been demolished, and another 59 have been sold. Carrier long ago moved its management ranks and manufacturing facilities from Syracuse. The York peppermint patty is now made in Mexico. They are examples, all of them of a broader point. When the local business closes its doors, corporate citizenship suffers. How extensive, you might wonder, is this pattern? Across M&T Bank's own footprint that stretches across much of the Northeast, from upstate New York to Virginia, we've identified at least 407 businesses that since 2004 were sold to buyers headquartered elsewhere. The study of the aftermaths of these transactions was troubling. Employment at these businesses declined by an average of 25%. Associated giving and employee donations declined by 59% to 89%. And though less quantifiable, but nevertheless all too real, when local companies are sold to outside firms, leaders, the would-be not-for-profit board participants, and community linchpins depart along with them. There are instances, though, where commitment to communities does not end with the shuttering of a business. Some civic-minded companies and their owners leave legacies that continue to make an impact. I think of Buffalo's Knox family. The Woolworth empire they founded might be gone, but the world-renowned Albright Knox Art Gallery remains. And that of John R. O'Shea Foundation, endowed by the fortune built by the Trico Corporation, which developed America's first windshield wiper. It has distributed an average of more than $15 million annually across Western New York over the last 5 years. When a business closes down or winds down, the volunteers and leadership might be lost, but these are examples of proof positive that corporate citizenship can be enduring. Unfortunately, enduring corporate citizenship is an exception, not a rule. Too often, the sale of a business means the end of corporate interest and involvement. It is a phenomenon that leaves a vacuum in our civic culture, one that can mean that the problems of communities are poorly understood by those in leadership roles. Proximity, in other words, leads to empathy and understanding. Those qualities, in turn, lead to the identification of the specific kinds of philanthropic and volunteer roles which the socially responsible corporate citizen might play. Not every city has a poor-performing public school system. In Buffalo, however, where M&T is headquartered, the poor performance of our public schools constitutes a crisis, robbing firms of the skilled employees they need and holding back the revitalization of the city. The city's education system had long been eroding. Graduation rates, despite some recent advancements, still hover barely above 60%. And only a fraction of students score with proficiency on the state-administered English and math tests. Enrollment is down, truancy is up. There is certainly an opportunity to effect change. It was with all that in mind, back in 1993, M&T entered a partnership with Buffalo Public School 68, a building since rechristened as the Westminster Community Charter School. located in one of the city's lowest income neighborhoods. Rather than sit back and pass judgment, we stood up and got involved. In a span of just 3 years, one of the city's worst performing schools became one of its best. We recognized further that school improvement would be limited without neighborhood involvement. Not content with adopting a single school, we adopted a single neighborhood located in the northeast corner of Buffalo's east side, arguably the most disadvantaged zip code in the country's fourth poorest city. We extended our commitment to education by providing services that would help a child from the proverbial cradle all the way to the time they would be ready to enter high school. Today, I'm gratified to say that our Buffalo Promise Neighborhood Program is making an enormous impact. Funding from numerous public and private partners, including the Federal Department of Education, now totals $50 million. Those dollars, however, might mean little were their impact not augmented by the Herculean efforts of 21 bank employees who worked full-time for the program, and 300 more who volunteered their time over the last 12 months. The neighborhood now boasts a brand new $3.5 million children's academy for preschoolers and 10 refurbished homes for families. It is a neighborhood we believe that is starting to turn around, and we're proud to be at the wheel. Nor does every community have the architectural heritage that Buffalo has, a heritage that has begun to serve as a driver of economic development. It was that specific aspect of Buffalo's history that led us to support the reconstruction from blueprints of a new Frank Lloyd Wright structure and the renovation of an existing one. It has complemented works by Louis Sullivan and H.H. Richardson, which now draws thousands to our city. I could cite similar examples in the many communities we serve. We were founded in Buffalo in 161 years ago, and there we remain today. As we've expanded, however, from Rochester to Harrisburg, Washington to Richmond, we've adopted new communities, assimilated new employees, and extended our corporate citizenship to new locales. I'm proud to say that our company has grown over the last 34 years. I'm prouder still of the fact that each time we've completed a merger, we've maintained or increased local charitable giving. We can only be headquartered in one city, but we try to be of and for each of our places in which we do business. In other words, the fact that headquarters is not located need not mean abandonment of that role. Corporate citizenship should not, however, all be centrally directed from what we call the C-suite. Employees often know the needs of neighbors and neighborhoods better than executives. In M&T, we make it clear that our corporate culture includes the schedule flexibility that helps make volunteerism possible. Annually, M&T employees volunteer thousands of hours of their time at schools, youth sports leagues, food banks, homeless shelters, theater groups, and museum boards. In 2016 alone, my colleagues gave more than 300,000 hours in support of all manners of causes and serve on more than 2,100 community and not-for-profit boards. Beyond that, our corporate charitable foundation made nearly $190 million in community-focused grants over the past 10 years. In 2016 alone, we made grants valued at more than $22 million to 3,300 nonprofit organizations. These include the local orchestra, the zoo, the endangered civic jewels that are our museums. And to be sure, there are the sorts of amenities, along with extremely efficient snow plowing, that help us attract talented new employees, as well as preserve the social fabric of our city. One may say that all this corporate citizenship is a manifestation of our own self-interest, albeit our enlightened self-interest, perhaps so, but we see it. But we are seeing its ilk ebb from American life, and we dare not let it disappear. I'm gratified that my company is seen as socially responsible, as a good citizen of the community it serves. Truth be told, I could be paid no greater compliment. Thank you very much.